Final gather is a global illumination technique that simulates the result of light bouncing off of diffuse surfaces or matte finish surfaces. So on the left here, you'll see a rendering with final gather disabled. And although we have 3 lights in this scene, I've got 2 track lights and a floor lamp, we get absolutely black shadows in areas that are not directly illuminated. So that's no good. If we want realistic renderings, we need some method of calculating the diffuse bounces, which is a form of indirect illumination. So here on the right, I have Final Gather enabled. And you'll see over here on this wall, although there's no direct illumination, there's indirect illumination that's kind of giving us a little bit of splash on the wall there. Now, there are other ways of achieving indirect illumination, such as radiosity, which is kind of an old school technique. You can do that with the default scanline renderer, but not with mental ray. There's another method of indirect illumination called photon mapping. And just to show that to you, I'm going to open up the render setup window. And in the render setup window indirect illumination tab, you'll see there's different sections here, different rollouts for the different types of indirect illumination. In this course, we're only going to look at Final Gather because, in the words of Autodesk, this is a technique that's suitable for non-expert users. That's kind of a way of saying that if you wanted to use these other methods, you'd have to spend quite a lot of time tweaking it. And it's not terribly intuitive. It's more accurate, but it's much slower to render and takes much longer to set up. So in this course, we're only going to be looking at Final Gather as a method of indirect illumination. It's less accurate than the other method, which is photon mapping, but it is much easier to set up and it renders much more quickly. You can adjust some of the basic parameters from within the rendered frame window, as you see here, but we're going to spend some time in the render setup window and adjust these settings to optimize them for each scene. So it's not good enough to simply, flip this up to, low or medium. You're really going to want to spend some time adjusting these values. So that's a little bit about how Final Gather works and what it's for.